This video is sponsored by Quark.
What is the best way to export a PNG or JPEG from Photoshop? Well, I'm going to show you two different ways to do it. The first way is to go to File, Export, Save for Web Legacy. Now the legacy at the end of this kind of implies that it's an older technology that's being maybe replaced by something else. And that I think is sort of the case, but this dialog box here does some things that the dialog box that is going to replace this doesn't yet do. And so I'm going to show you both methods. Both have advantages and disadvantages. This artwork is flat artwork, so I'm probably going to want to export it as a PNG because it doesn't have a lot of subtle shading and things like that in it. So I'm probably going to be able to get the smallest file size that I can by choosing PNG for the format. One of the nice features of this dialog box is the ability to view 2-up or 4-up views of the image. And here at the moment I've got the original file listed here, and then it's defaulting to showing me 3 different JPEG images at different quality settings here: 30 quality, 7 quality, and 15 quality. Well, I don't really care about JPEG. Maybe I want to change this to PNG. So I'm going to see how I can select these individually. I'm going to select this one and tell it that I want to see what this looks like as a PNG 24 image. PNG 24 images support transparent backgrounds if I want. In this case it doesn't matter, and support millions of colors and things like that, so it can be very faithful to the original. So this one as a PNG 24 image is going to be 376K. If I select this one though and change it to a PNG 8 image, then it becomes 106K. Still looks pretty good when I'm zoomed out this far, but if I zoom in a little bit, I'm using Command plus and Command minus to zoom in, we might be able to see that there's some compromise in color going on here. I guess I don't see anything just yet. I'll zoom back out. But I'm going to tell it that I don't want any dithering. I don't want to mix pixels together to make other colors, because I want to preserve the integrity of the image. And then I'm going to change the number of colors being used in this to 32. And still, to my eye, looks pretty good. But notice here, if I just select this and then hit the down arrow a bunch of times to start to reduce the color palette, every time I hit the down arrow, it removes some colors from the palette here. Eventually, watch this image here. I'm going to hit the down arrow some more. See how things are starting to change? Like right there, their hair suddenly got dark. I'll go back up one color to preserve the color of the hair, etc. As I go back up, the colors start to get restored. So if I reduce the color palette too far, the image starts to change, but the image gets smaller and smaller in file size. So I don't expect you to have followed all that precisely, but the point is here that you can tweak the output settings on each one of these samples here and play with it as much as you want until you determine the best compromise of file format, color palette, other settings over here, and you can see the file sizes listed immediately in the bottom left corner of each one of these tiles. And then once you determine which one you want to use, you just select that one, say save, give it a name and location, and you're done. So this Save for Web is a pretty slick tool. If you're really trying to make the best quality image and you really want to fuss with it, this is the way to go. Now that might be overkill for a lot of your images, but it really can work well for when you really care a lot about each one. Another nice little feature of this is there's this little optimize to file size thing here, which I won't walk through right now, but essentially you get to choose a target file size and it will try to optimize the image the best way it can to try to fit under that threshold. That can be useful once in a while. So that's the first method of exporting files that I wanted to point out. So again, that was File, export, save for web legacy. The second method that's most frequently used is the export as command. And before I choose export as, let me show you where this method doesn't work so well. If I go to this image here, this image is using Photoshop's Artboards command. So there's 3 different artboards with 3 social media images at 2 different sizes. If I go to File, Export, Save for Web Legacy, it thinks that the whole thing is a single image, and there's no way to, or no simple way to just go and say I want just this one or just this one. I mean, there's ways to do it, but it's not, I can't just click a button here. So for multi-artboard images, you're probably better off using File, Export, Export As. And notice that both of these have keyboard shortcuts, so you can get to them very quickly. Export As is an entirely different experience. It lets me choose PNG, JPEG, or GIF up here, and I get to choose the quality and the dimensions and things like that, much like the other dialog box. But it lets me choose which of the artboards I want to export and what settings I want to use for each of those artboards. And I can even export each of these artboards at different sizes. So I could export each artboard at its original size and at double size or half size or quarter size or whatever I want, all in one fell swoop. In other words, once you get all these settings the way you want, you say export and it spits all the copies of the images all out into the same folder. Now, if this seems a little intimidating, or maybe you just want to export a single artboard, then an easy way to do that is just to go over to the Layers panel, find the artboard you want, right-click on it, and choose Export As from the pop-up menu here. That brings you to that same dialog box, but focuses it just on that single artboard. So you can quickly crank out a PNG or a JPEG or whatever of just a single artboard very quickly that way. So again, the 2 main ways to export in Photoshop that work really well are File, Export, Export As, and Save for Web. There's 3, 4, 5 different other ways to export from Photoshop also, but they're more niche kinds of things that you probably don't need too much.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. And for thousands more how-to articles and tutorials, visit our website, CreativePro.com, and become a member today. Thanks for learning with us.